Face front, true believers. As most fans are already aware, 2026 is going to be a big year for Marvel superheroes, with the highly anticipated new movie Avengers Doomsday heading into theaters this December from Marvel Studios. But there's another big Avengers project also in the works from Marvel, and it will be kicking off a full 6 months earlier. Let's talk about Avengers Armageddon in this week's episode of Laughing Place Pulse. Longtime Marvel Comics readers will know that the now Disney-owned publishing company has a long history of crossover event series dating back to the mid-1980s, which function quite similarly to the way the Avengers movies do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Basically, all the famous superheroes have their own individual comics, occasionally popping up as guest stars in the other titles here and there. And then they'll all get together to combat a larger threat in an event series like Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2, which were released from 1984 to 1986 as a promotional tool for Marvel superhero action figures. Over the decades, this trend has continued, removed from the action figure part, and even became more frequent as the comic industry has evolved. In the early 90s, there were the Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, and Infinity Crusade events, which 2 decades later gave birth to the Infinity Saga in the MCU. Then about a decade after that, we got House of M, Civil War, which, as you know, became its own movie, World War Hulk, and then Secret Invasion, which was adapted into its own Disney Plus series by Marvel Television, starring Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. The 2010s saw a flood of these Marvel Comics events as the movies helped solidify the superhero crossover concept. There was Siege, Shadowland, Fear Itself, Avengers vs. X-Men, Infinity, Axis, a new iteration of Secret Wars, which will likely serve as the basis for Marvel Studios' upcoming Avengers Secret Wars movie, Civil War 2, Inhumans vs. X-Men, Secret Empire, Infinity Wars with an S, and War of the Realms starring Thor and the villain Malekith. And so far in the 2020s, we've gotten annual event series like Empire with a Y, King in Black starring the villain Null, creator of the symbiotes, Heroes Reborn, Devil's Reign, and Judgment Day. That brings us to 2024's Blood Hunt, which ended with Stephen Strange handing over the title of Sorcerer Supreme to Dr. Victor Von Doom in order to save the world from a vampire uprising, a decision that is still reverberating throughout the Marvel Universe. That gave way to last year's One World Under Doom, which saw most of the familiar Marvel superheroes dealing with and opposing the reign of Emperor Doom. Okay, so spoiler alert, One World Under Doom ended with Dr. Doom sacrificing himself to save his beloved goddaughter Valeria Richards, who he accidentally killed during the climactic battle. And so Doom is currently dead in Marvel Comics continuity. I say currently because, as we all know, these things don't tend to stick for terribly long when it comes to superhero comics. But regardless, Doom's death freed Earth from his despotic rule, but it has also left a power vacuum in his Eastern European nation of Latveria, which brings us to this year. Deep breath. In December, we got a follow-up issue to One World Under Doom called The Will of Doom, which saw Valeria inheriting her godfather's vast holdings, which includes an army of Doombots. Luckily, as the daughter of the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards and Sue Storm, Valeria is squarely on the side of the good. On the anti-hero side, however, we've got General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, also known as the Red Hulk, claiming Latveria for America, but really himself, in his own title and the Dungeons of Doom miniseries, leading into the current run of Captain America and a miniseries called Wolverine: Weapons of Armageddon. Now, that's a word you're going to be hearing a lot this year if you're into Marvel Comics, because this is all building up to Avengers Armageddon, which will launch with its first issue on Wednesday, June 3rd. This series is being written by Chip Zdarsky and illustrated by Frank Alpizar with Delio Diaz. In this major crossover event, it's time for the Avengers to assemble against Thunderbolt Ross, incorporating members of the Fantastic Four and the X-Men for help. With Armageddon, Marvel is promising a transformational narrative that will forever change the landscape of its superhero universe. In fact, Marvel says there will be a pre-Armageddon Marvel Universe and a post-Armageddon Marvel Universe, meaning there's going to be a big transformation of the status quo underway. Now, it may sound like there's a lot to take in before picking up Armageddon this summer, and there sure is, more than 6 decades worth of Marvel Comics continuity, in fact. But it's also important to remember that these comics are designed so that new readers can jump in whenever they want, especially at the start of a big new event series like this. So if you're excited for the movie Avengers Doomsday, but don't feel like waiting until the end of the year for the next big adventure with your favorite heroes, I'd recommend going back to where it all began, on the comic book page. As a bonus, Marvel also just announced that it will be releasing 8 new What If one-shots this year in celebration of that anthology title's 50th anniversary. And if you want to play as these characters in video game form, there's a new game called Marvel's Wolverine headed to PlayStation 5 on Tuesday, September 15th, which takes place in the same narrative universe as the Marvel's Spider-Man video games. Plus, just announced today, Marvel Games and Limited Run Games will be releasing the Marvel Maximum Collection, collecting 13 comic book-inspired arcade and console games starring the X-Men, Spider-Man, Captain America, and more. Like I said, it's going to be a big year for Marvel, so stay tuned right here at the Laughing Place YouTube channel and visit laughingplace.com for further coverage. Excelsior!